Hello and welcome. You're watching the Global Reset from CNBC-TV18 Prime Ionic Wealth Studio. I'm Prashant Nair. Today on the program, we'll be joined in short order by RS Subramanian, who is the Senior Vice President, South Asia and Managing Director for India at DHL Express. We'll talk about, of course, DHL Express's big investment plans here in India. They're talking about €1 billion of investments in India over the next 4 to 5 years. But of course, we'll also talk about supply chains and where India is positioned in the Southeast Asian region as far as DHL is concerned. But as always, before we get into the conversation, and as we do, let's begin the show by taking a quick look at what's happened on the market and the global news front so far. Stocks on Wall Street saw a sharp sell-off in Monday's trading session. The drag came from Nvidia ahead of the IT darling's third quarter results. That is on Wednesday. That is tomorrow late night is when Nvidia will report numbers. Stock was down about 2% into it. Nasdaq down about 0.8%, as you can see. Remember, last week as well, there has been a bit of a wobble as far as US technology stocks are concerned, and people getting a little anxious at the margin whether maybe the AI theme is run a little ahead of itself, at least in the short term. Other tech names also slumped. The Dow tumbled nearly about 560 points. And as I said, the Nasdaq 200. Investors, of course, also keeping an eye on the September jobs report, which is likely to come out later this week. Meanwhile, markets in Asia largely mirroring cues from Wall Street trading with cuts over AI jitters. Remember, many of these markets, of course, have been closely correlated with this entire AI Nasdaq theme. Taiwan, Hang Seng, Nikkei, etc. are lower. Here in India, I mean, of course, markets have paired losses and we are down a very, very small bit at this point in time. Well, there are also, of course, intensifying tensions between China and Japan, which are keeping investors in those two markets perhaps on the edge, more in Japan. And we'll talk more about this later. Some weak trading in India, but of course, off the lows. Now, while global markets continue to react to shifting economic cues, there is, of course, a significant development on the diplomatic front, which is the India-US potential trade deal in the weeks and months ahead. This, of course, is something which financial markets are watching very, very closely. In an interview to CNBC, Trump's economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, said that Washington and New Delhi were very close to reaching a deal with India. Listen in.
What's going on with India? Just as an aside, in terms of a trade deal, we've been so close so many times. Were we ever close?
Yeah, we were for sure very close. I've spoken to the ambassador, and we've had visits, and I think that it's a complicated situation because of the interaction between what India does with Russia and with what India does with us. And so I think we're still quite hopeful, but it got pretty complicated because there are a lot of different variables in the India-American relationship. But they're good friends, and we're hoping we can work it out soon.
Okay, hope that we can work it out soon. That's coming in from Kevin Hassett. Well, we want to talk about more stuff, right? Shifting away from the changing trade dynamics to shifting alliances. Washington's attention is now turning to a very different kind of diplomatic calculation. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, MBS as he's popularly referred to, is heading to the White House. This is his first visit since the 2018 killing of Jamal Khashoggi, a moment that triggered a global backlash and, of course, a lot of condemnation of the MBS as the leader of Saudi Arabia, and of course kind of pushed him to the margins of international politics. Yet far from being sort of isolated, MBS is once again a central figure in West Asian power dynamics and a key player for the US as well. And his visit to Washington, to the US, will be closely watched. How did MBS navigate that journey from being almost a pariah to a power broker in that part of the world? Take a look at this explainer, this report.
Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is on a mission to reclaim his place on the world stage with his first White House visit since the 2018 killing of Saudi critic Jamal Khashoggi sparked global outrage. With long-running oil and security ties at stake, Tuesday's meeting with President Donald Trump underscores a relationship built on strategic interests that has endured beyond Saudi Arabia's mottled human rights record. So how did the man commonly known as MBS pivot from pariah to power player? MBS's rise began when his father became king in 2015 and gave him powerful portfolios, including defense. 2 years later, he ousted his older cousin as heir in a palace coup and became crown prince at age 31 with almost unprecedented powers. MBS vowed to open the kingdom to the world, marking a generational shift.
70% of Saudis are under the age of 30. We will not waste 30 years of dealing with extremist ideas. We will destroy them today.
He defanged the once feared religious police and swept away decades of austere social codes. Women now drive, work and mingle with men, freedoms once punishable by flogging. This year, Jennifer Lopez strutted on stage in Riyadh as models swept the catwalk in a high-profile fashion show. But the same hand that opened Saudi society also tightened its grip on power. Dissent is crushed, with critics and activists given prison and death sentences, according to rights groups, though the kingdom rejects accusations of human rights abuses. U.S. intelligence linked Jamal Khashoggi's killing in 2018 to the prince. MBS denied ordering it, but admitted responsibility as de facto ruler. Then presidential candidate Joe Biden said Saudi Arabia should be made a pariah over the killing. But Washington ultimately moved on, driven by energy, defense and technology. 7 years on, MBS now casts himself as a broker of peace, repairing ties with Iran, pushing for a Gaza ceasefire and welcoming Syria back into the Arab fold. Under MBS, Saudi Arabia has grown its soft power, pushing itself as a tourist destination and pumping billions of dollars into global sporting events in a move critics call sports washing. Trump's return to the White House this year revived a transactional warmth, with $600 billion in Saudi investment pledges made when the president visited Riyadh in May. While MBS presses for deals in nuclear energy and artificial intelligence under his ambitious Vision 2030 plan to diversify the Saudi economy. The pair are also looking to deepen ties over a decades-long security deal that sees the Saudis selling oil at favorable prices and the U.S. providing security in exchange. But a defense pact MBS wants has a hurdle. Washington is requiring the kingdom to normalize ties with Israel. For that, Riyadh is pushing Israel's government to commit to Palestinian statehood, something Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has staunchly opposed. Analysts say deals are set to be struck this trip, but with both sides likely getting less than they want. And in the meantime, what's not set to be brought up are the human rights concerns that previously sparked moral outrage.
I think it's a fantastic report on the changing role of Saudi Arabia and, of course, what can happen next. Well, while Washington prepares, of course, for that high-profile diplomatic meeting, it's also making quieter but strategically significant moves, which are much more closer to home. A Reuters investigation has found that the U.S. military is upgrading a long-abandoned Cold War-era naval base in the Caribbean. The scale of the activity points to preparations for sustained operations that could help support possible actions inside Venezuela. Why is the U.S. building up military forces in the region? Take a look at this report.
A Reuters visual investigation has found that the United States military is upgrading a long-abandoned former Cold War naval base in the Caribbean. Officials and experts say it could mean the U.S. is preparing for possible action inside Venezuela. So why is the U.S. restoring the base now?
This is not something that the region is accustomed to seeing.
Ryan Berg is director of the Americas program and head of the Future of Venezuela initiative at the Center for Strategic and International Studies.
I think this is happening now for a number of reasons. First, the Trump administration is very keen to demonstrate that they are implementing a new paradigm when it comes to dealing with counter-narcotics. No longer is the U.S. Coast Guard the lead operator in these missions, but the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Air Force have been brought in to support and in many ways take over these missions. And I think that that new paradigm is there because the administration is keen to show that foreign terrorist organization designations for cartels in Latin America have consequences, in this case, lethal consequences.
Since early September, the U.S. has carried out at least 14 strikes against alleged drug vessels in the Caribbean and Pacific, killing more than 60 people. The upgrades in the Caribbean are taking place at Puerto Rico's Roosevelt Roads Naval Base. The Navy withdrew from the facility more than 20 years ago in 2004. Before that, it was one of the biggest U.S. naval stations in the world. One U.S. official told Reuters the base occupies a strategic location and offers a large amount of space for gathering equipment. Construction activity was underway on September 17th. According to photos taken by Reuters, crews began clearing and repaving taxiways leading to the runway. In addition to the upgrades of landing and takeoff capabilities, the U.S. is building out facilities at civilian airports in Puerto Rico and St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Those two U.S. territories sit roughly 500 miles from Venezuela. Reuters spoke to 3 U.S. military officials and 3 maritime experts, who said the new construction in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands pointed to preparations that could enable the U.S. military to carry out operations inside Venezuela. President Donald Trump has also suggested it.
And a lot of the Venezuelan drugs come in through the sea, so you get to see that. But we're going to stop them by land also.
The U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean began in August with the arrival of warships, a nuclear-powered submarine, fighter jets, and spy planes. The Ford Aircraft Carrier Strike Group, with roughly 10,000 troops and dozens of aircraft and weapons systems, is on its way from the Adriatic Sea. According to Reuters reporting in U.S. officials, the Trump administration since August has deployed at least 13 warships, 5 support vessels, and a nuclear submarine. 8 warships remain in the region, along with supporting vessels.
Well, again, a very interesting report from a lesser talked about part of the world, which is South America. Well, we'll slip into a quick commercial break here. Up next, we will be joined by RS Subramanian, a Senior Vice President, South Asia and Managing Director, India of DHL Express. Stay tuned for that conversation coming up after a quick break. Joining us now is Mr. RS Subramanian, SVP South Asia and MD India, DHL Express. Mr. Subramanian is a distinguished leader driving DHL's growth in India and the wider region, overseeing major investments in logistics, digital transformation and sustainability. With DHL placing India high on its global priority list, his insights will be useful for understanding the future trajectory of the express delivery and supply chain industry in India and South Asia as well. Our conversation will try and navigate how DHL is positioning India as a rising trade and logistics hub. So thanks very much for joining us. Great having you with us here on this edition of the Global Reset on CNBC-TV18 Prime. Prashant this side. I just want to start by asking you to give us the lay of the land. DHL has announced significant investments in India recently. Can you share the broad top highlights of what you're trying to do and the vision behind these plans?
Yeah, see, DHL has been present as a group in the country for close to 42, 43 years now. And we've made significant investment over the years. But of late, we've been making commitments in terms of specific areas where we are focusing. The current discussion arises out of the Strategy 2030, which we pronounced towards the end of last year, which talks about 5 specific areas globally where we have big interest. One of the items which we think is a growth avenue for the next 5 years for the group is what we call as geographic tailwind countries. Yeah, so we find that about 20 countries among the 220 countries where DHL is present account for close to 20% of our global revenue, possibly is generating more than 80% of the global growth. And that's supported by macroeconomic indicators as well. And India is sort of on top of that list. I won't say number 1, number 2, number 3, but it's one of those bigger geographic tailwind countries. And that brings extra focus into India, where the group is already very, very well entrenched. Our strategy document outlines few sectors where there is significant focus, one of which is life sciences and health. India is the pharma capital and emerging significant development in the country on the overall life sciences landscape in terms of clinical trials and research and development, medical devices manufacturing, you name it in the life sciences and health space. I think everything is happening in the country, and there is significant investment from this sector into the country. The second area which our strategy outlines is called new energy. No-brainer, because there is so much talk about alternative fuel, which is wind and solar, and increasingly a lot of new technologies around hydrogen. But at the same time, a lot of countries of the likes of India are in different stages of development of the electric vehicles system, and this is something which is going to expand. Electric vehicles, electric vehicle manufacturing, battery production, battery storage, servicing the network is some big area. And with all the changes which is happening in the energy sector, the grid and the development of the grid is another big area of investment which is happening. Possibly you know more about the kind of work which is happening in each of these sectors from global players and local players, and the significant investment which is happening. And therefore, this is a very rich area for a logistic player like DHL to be focusing on. The third sector which our strategy talks about is e-commerce. No-brainer, it's almost 1/3 of our global business already, and it's still continuing to grow. And we think it will continue to grow in different formats, will evolve. And DHL is positioned as a group in different parts of the logistics supply chain in great position to be able to service the e-commerce customers. So I can keep going on and on. Plus, there are so many things happening in the country, right? India is the global supply chain shift towards manufacturing in India, be it a tech sector or in the automobile sector or engineering and manufacturing sector. Pharmaceutical sector is very visible. So therefore, it's a rich opportunity for us to capitalize, and that's what the group is focusing on, and investments are trained towards.
This is all be through your subsidiary Blue Dart Express?
See, we have four companies in the country. So DHL Express, Blue Dart Express, DHL Global Forwarding, and DHL Supply Chain. We committed, for example, today our group has made an announcement saying that from now into 2030, we'll invest 1 billion euros in India. A lot of those investments will go into increasing our network of warehousing and specialization in the warehousing space. Maybe half of it will go into that. Other half of it will go in building infrastructure and capabilities in these sectors which I outlined, and in the businesses which are present in the country, including Blue Dart, including DHL Express, and including Global Forwarding. I think there is significant opportunity in specific parts of the logistics supply chain for sectors, and that's the focus area.
Yeah, but just a quick, so €1 billion all the way till 2030, from now to 2030.
Up to 2030.
2030.
So 26 to 2030 is about 5 years' time, billion euros.
And about half of it, 500 million euros.
Capital investment.
Perhaps through into strengthening and solidifying Blue Dart's network.
No, probably in the DHL supply chain network, which is the warehousing part of it. The other part of it will go into Blue Dart and DHL Express and and the Global Forwarding. So it's not that you have specific amounts reserved for different segments. We are focusing on sectors, and where there are opportunities, the investments will flow, and which is how the group has operated, and will continue to operate like that.
How large is the India market, Mr. Subramanian, and what's your share at this point? And if you can give us a sense of organized versus unorganized, etc.
I won't guess a number. I won't guess a number, but all I can possibly tell you is that we are number one in international express, we are number one in domestic express, we are number one in organized supply chain logistics, and we are number two in most of the air freight, ocean freight, custom brokerage kind of businesses where we are present in. So we are number one or number two in most of the logistics segments in which we operate in. We are a significantly growing road business through Blue Dart in the country. We're possibly in the top 3 or top 4 and growing very strongly. So therefore, our aspiration is to be number one or number two in all the segments where we're present in.
Are there, if you were to identify 2 or 3 things which need to be done to really sort of, so that the logistics part of it, the back end meets the ambition in some of the sectors that you mentioned, right? Which is pharma, tech, etc. What would those be? What needs to be done?
Okay, see, there are many things which can be in our wish list, some of it internal, some of it external. Yeah, internally,
what's the external?
I think our focus is on building.
What's the external bits?
See, external bit is actually an easy answer, right? External bit, infrastructure in the country, trade infrastructure in the country, it's significantly better than where it used to be 10 years back, but there is still some more way to go. And it is always on the wish list saying, we need better ports, we need more capacity at the airports, we need better roads. So therefore, should be the multimodal capability exists within the country, but seamlessly the modes coming together is still a challenge. The regulatory environment can become better. There is a huge theme which the government has been running for the last 10 years or so in terms of ease of doing business, and that has improved things, but there is still some more way to go. The third item, which if you ask me, is automation and digitalization of public processes. I think India is a lighthouse example on what we've been able to achieve in the payment side and some of the banking side. The same kind of the energy and focus can come in ensuring that compliances are made easy, and therefore cost of doing business comes down significantly. So therefore, we made progress, but there is some more way to go.
No, absolutely. Got that. You know, if as you see it, Mr. Subramanian, in terms of the Southeast, and not just India, right, but relative to some of the other countries that you oversee in the South Asia region, how would you rank India in terms of prospects, pace of growth, etc.? You know, e-com, for example, for the last couple of years has been a little subdued, growth in e-com as a business. And we speak with the big e-com players like Amazon, etc. I mean, it's been low single digits in some years, at least I'm talking about the last 3 years. How would you respond to that?
See, two parts to your question. So one is, how do I rank Indian market? I think India need not be compared within South Asia. India should be compared on the global scale, and possibly we'll rank in the number 1, number 2, number 3 opportunity for any business in the next 5 to 10 years. And therefore, our position as a most attractive country and expected to be fastest growing economy is not going away, and therefore we really rank up there in terms of opportunity for businesses, and which is something which we see when we speak to our customers. Talking about e-commerce, I think there might be short-term ups and downs which you see. The formats will change. Some players will go down, some players will pick up. But when you talk about Indian market, I think we're still at a nascent stage. Different formats will get developed. At a global level and at a country level, we still think that e-commerce will continue to be a big driver of business, possibly strong double-digit growth going forward.
Mr. Subramanian, I had more questions, but we're out of time. Thank you very much for joining us. Good speaking with you, sir, and good luck.
Great pleasure talking to you. Maybe we can speak more at a later date. Thank you.
Okay, well, that is, a DHL Express with the focus on India and, of course, a sense of things and where they see opportunity here in this market. It's a wrap on this edition of the Global Reset. Thank you very much for staying with us. More coming up on CNBC-TV18 Prime on the other side.